in DS9, well, I guess we finally do have security cameras here at V'ger, please. Vile visit to Bajor. My name is Joseph.
Hey man, I know I'm in the process of dying over here, but tell me again about that ballerina you were banging. I'm your co-host, Peter.
Before we get into the episode this week, it'll be a couple of weeks after we've put out our interview with Feral Historian, a fantastic YouTuber who made the time to talk to us two jabronis for an hour on the weekend because I emailed him and asked him. And much to my delight, he shared that interview around and it got a lot of traction. And for our little show, it made a big difference in terms of the amount of people listening. So if you are one of the folks that came around because of the Feral Historian interview, welcome. Hope you're still listening. This is it. We just do this show every week. We've been doing this show every week for 6 years. We'll be doing it for a while longer. We got more episodes to review. So if you like Voyager, good news. We did all that. If you like Enterprise, I'm glad there's at least one of you. We did all of them too. And now we're doing what you would call AKA the good stuff, Deep Space Nine. So the basic premise, if you haven't already figured it out, I've seen everything. Peter has not. And so we all get to live vicariously through his discovery of the rest of the Trek he didn't consume when he was a little nerdling watching TNG. So that's awesome. And thanks again to Matt, Feral Historian, for being generous with his time and sharing it around and bringing some people over to us so that, our own reach could be expanded. On that note, Peter, what episode of Deep Space Nine did we watch this week?
Well, we watched Season 2, Episode 13, Armageddon Game. First aired January 30th, 1994. Teleplay by Morgan Gendel, Stephen Bear, James Crocker. Story by Morgan Grendel. Directed by Rick Colby in Universe Day 2370.
So it's interesting sometimes when we get this story by and then teleplay by, because it's typically a circumstance where one writer came up with the idea and then it gets other hands on it for the actual teleplay, actual construction of the plot. I don't know if this was this idea he tried to sell to the TNG writers for season 7 and they just weren't biting or what, but this was kind of a very odd fit plot-wise for Deep Space Nine. One they did not really explain quite well. They tried to make it work. I think they found some things that made it worthwhile overall, but this just is a square peg in a round hole in a lot of ways. Like, they never really explain why your Deep Space Nine crew is involved in what is very much a TNG plot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All of the fingerprints of TNG are all over this. It works because in the end, all that we wanted here was how do we draw Bashir and O'Brien closer together?
Correct.
Let's say this was a TNG episode. Who is going to be occupying the roles of Bashir and O'Brien for you?
This is a TNG episode. You would have to have Dr. Crusher there. It would be basically a replacement for Julian, because this requires somebody that has medical skill, because it's specifically a disease. It's not just a technological question, because you could use data. It could be a data Crusher episode. That's not a pairing you see very often on the show.
I'm going to go with Worf and LaForge, because I think part of this episode is that the people who are trapped on the surface are an odd couple of sorts, and Data's too easy for people to get along with, I think.
Yeah, you couldn't do the episode the same way because Data wouldn't have the flaws and the interpersonal sort of issues that he would have with a different character, and you wouldn't want to use Crusher because Crusher is someone else that actually is very good at getting along with everybody. She's got that mom energy. I like your pairing better. I don't know, I don't think it necessarily makes the most sense for a plot in terms of those are the two people you would send to destroy biogenic weapons, but they are the two correct characters to put into the circumstance that would ultimately present itself, particularly where Worf might have to step in and do technical things that aren't within his, and you have to grow and they have to have these conversations and, awkward in a different way. I brought this up right off the bat because I thought that there was 3 teleplay people. I was like, this feels like a TNG story idea they didn't want the DS9 people took it. And then Ira Stephen Bear is like, well, how do I make this work for DS9? Okay, I'm gonna pair these characters here. This is what I'm gonna do with the rest of the crew, and I've fit this square peg into the round hole, even though I'm never gonna try to explain why the fuck they're even doing any of this.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, so they open up for some reason. There is a alliance between two former war combatant species, and they have made their peace, and they are both wholeheartedly pursuing this new alliance, or not alliance, but this peace phase that they're in. And they've got these weapons called harvesters, which I can't really tell you what they are, other than some sort of
bottled AIDS, man. They just you get hit by it, and apparently you just die of a terrible disease.
Well, they fucking suck, because this isn't like you're dead within 20 minutes. And it's not like it's a parasitic thing that, turns you into a shambling zombie. Like, it's up jumped space flu that takes well over 24 hours to work. It is not communicable, which I guess there could be advantages to that. But, if you're going after germ warfare, I think a high transmission rate organically would be a priority. And also does not stand up to Federation technology whatsoever, because once O'Brien is sick with it and on his deathbed, Julian has that thing fixed within 16 minutes of getting back on DS9. So,
which is not a place with the highest level of technology to begin with.
Absolutely not. There is nothing that we have seen out of Deep Space Nine that really puts this thing as like a level 2 trauma center. Okay. Only people pulling off the highway to go to the hospital on Deep Space Nine are like the most dire cases. So Species A, which are the Christmas Elves, and then Species B, which are Romulans with worse hair.
They are two races that have very different names, but extraordinarily similar designs. Like, you needed to make one of them like nasty, or give them some different facial makeup or something. Instead, they just both look like space elves with shitty 80s hair.
Here's what you do. You take the space elf hotties, the Christmas elves, and you put them into the terrible space farmer refugee episode. And then you take the chickenpox people of Misery.
Yes.
And you put them up against the discount Romulans.
Perfect.
Was that one guy Tomalak?
Oh, the ambassador for the discount Romulans? Sharat?
Yes.
Let's take a look. Peter White. Peter White only ever played that role. No.
He's got Tomalak energy.
He does.
Discount Tomalak energy. And he shall be discount Tomalak. Ambassador discount Tomalak. Ambassador DT. So, the Christmas Elves and the discount Romulans, they forge peace, and they have what they think some really hot shit weaponry that is so dangerous it's worth spoiler alert, it's worth killing everybody over. And they cannot figure out what to do with the stockpile of these weapons. So they call the Federation in, and the Federation was presumably like, well, can you just like shoot these fucking things into the sun? And they're like, no, we've got strong religious quandaries with that. We can't just do that. They don't say that in the episode, but I assume that there's some sort of...
We are talking about a race that has a giant cruiser with phasers and transporters. So why are you laboring over the delicate deconstruction of these weapons? You could just beam them into a sun. Beam them right next to a sun.
You could just beam them. You could transport them into the buffer and then hit delete.
Even if, okay, you can't transport them, right? Because something about them, the activators. Okay, put them in a torpedo or just push them out the airlock and like in a ball that's got a little thruster on it that just gets into the gravitational hold of the sun and then burns into atoms.
No, this power weapon is so powerful, it will give the sun space aids.
Except if the sun goes to DS9 sickbay, apparently. Like, come on. Like, yeah, for some reason, Bashir has to, like, destroy them with radiation, like from a sun. And O'Brien has to help. Okay. But why is the fucking jabroni ass C team of the Federation out there? Because that's what we established that DS9 is. These are not the dudes you send to do sensitive diplomatic work destroying bioweapons.
You have a space gas station, a space Travel America. You got a space Duchess.
It's no longer even a space flying J.
That became the most important outpost overnight because you've got a stable connection to the Gamma Quadrant.
Which, by the way, this all takes place in the Alpha Quadrant. If it had been taking place in the Gamma Quadrant, that could actually have been the explanation for why they're doing it.
Great reason.
Yeah.
This place becomes super important overnight. Every roughly 70 hours, the space butthole unfurls and oviposits a dilemma into the Alpha Quadrant.
It's just an unlimited hole of horrors from the other side of the fucking galaxy. Now, I'm so glad we found this, guys. It's really worked out.
Earth is far away, and that's only really reinforced the importance of the Federation and Starfleet staying on Deep Space Nine, because God only knows what would be happening to the Alpha Quadrant if the Cardassians were in charge and being forced to deal with these multifaceted dilemmas, right? These Cardassians, these Nazis, do not have the problem-solving skills to get through the Joe Dirt people, or...
No, they would not find the elegant solution to the Joe Dirt people.
They're not ready to deal with Rumpelstiltskin, okay?
No. Could you imagine Ducat having to deal with the Rumpelstiltskin people? He would just conjure up versions of himself.
No, he would conjure up his thing would, I assume, be Kira Nerys in a pair of hooker boots D2F, right? Like,
well, I'm sure that's part of the equation too, but that man is in love with himself as well. Let's be real.
That's very true.
Yes.
So you've got this understaffed, under-resourced, incredibly important Starfleet outpost that still has not received reinforcements for whatever reason. And then you're going to have the fucking audacity to tell them, hey, give me the guy who is critical to solving 86% of your life-threatening dilemma plots, Chief O'Brien, and then also your only fucking doctor who is responsible for solving 12% of your life-threatening plots. Put them in a space Winnebago and have them fly off to somewhere else where they're going to live for a fucking week, figuring out how to get rid of stuff that could have just been either transporter deleted or shot into a sun or just, I don't know, crashed into some crusty, like, it's space. There are so many opportunities.
Have you seen this place? It's deadly. It's filled with things that hate you. Go to a black hole. Push it in.
Yeah.
Whatever. Literally no bad answers.
And you're going to keep them there for a week dealing with this horse shit. Like, what misadventures does Deep Space Nine get into 6 days prior to us picking up? Like, how many life-threatening events have happened then? And who's responsible for saving those guys? Ridiculous. This is absolutely work for the Cerritos or some other Miranda/Oberth. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
It's not even two Starfleet officers. It's one officer and a non-commissioned grunt.
Correct.
So we already talked about the Space Elves' ridiculous ass hair that I feel like somebody came into Rick Colby's offices. Oh my God, dude, look at this wig we fucked up. Isn't this wild?
What do we do? How do we use this?
How do you make me more of those? Because I love it. And let's definitely put it in there. And also, you, makeup guy, give me your phone number. Because when I start getting into early seasons of Voyager, you and me are going to dance, bro. Make me a wig that screams Christmas elf and get me some pretty legit looking space elf hotties that we're going to plaster these things on. So
yeah, they really uglied up some very attractive women in this episode. And it wasn't even like the makeup was bad. It was just that hair.
I'll save the joke for a little bit later because I think it really applies to this. But all the set pieces scream Next Generation, both the doomed laboratory on the ship and the war-torn ruins down on the surface. You're saying this is a next-gen episode. The more I think about it, this should have been a Enterprise episode.
Oh, I could see this definitely being like, oh, we're going to step in and we're going to make friends by helping them solve their problem and getting in over your head. Absolutely.
And we haven't unlocked the space technology of putting things into the sun yet. Like, this got Phlox and Reed written all over it.
I did just scan, by the way, the memory alpha. Big change in this apparently was originally it was supposed to be Dax and Bashir, and they changed it to O'Brien. That was the correct decision to make.
Absolutely.
Grant them that.
This is a great episode format in terms of something that I'm sure is a bottle episode. I'm sure the Christmas Elves and the discount Romulans are never heard from again.
Of course.
And I suspect that the events of this will not be discussed moving forward. But
quick note, if you don't know this already, our definition of bottle episode is an episode that exists in the bottle in the sense that nothing in it that happens matters to the rest of the show. I know that there are other poor definitions of bottle episode that we don't acknowledge. Ours is it's in the bottle in the sense that it's like a ship in the bottle.
Self-contained.
It's self-contained. And yeah, so this is very much a bottle episode in that nothing that happened here matters except for the fact that Bashir and O'Brien end up becoming much closer friends, obviously.
To that end, was it Shuttle Pod 1?
You're talking about Enterprise with Trip and Reed?
Yeah, just a good reason for guys to bro out under duress. And
True.
Even if you don't reference it again moving deeper, like, it's there on the resume of the bromance. I think through this, they do a really good job of respecting the progress they had made up to this. I could have gone for some racquetball bickering while O'Brien's on his deathbed.
I like that they focused on relationships because it is something where they put O'Brien in a position to give like elder wisdom, which I think helps.
38-year-old elder wisdom. I'm air quoting here. 38-year-old Miles O'Brien.
It's some city miles on Chief O'Brien, man. Like he
fucking war miles.
Killed a lot of Cardassians, and that actually comes up in this episode a little bit in terms of his capacity both for violence and understanding booby traps.
High point of the episode. Back to them being out there for a week. So are they living on the runabout for a week, or do you think they had quarters on the ship?
I would assume that they were probably quartered on the ship from the fact they ate their food.
True. Bashir's beating himself up. They've been at this for a while. Even though he's, working on a space gas station, we know this is a very keen mind within Starfleet. They're lucky they've got this guy working this ridiculous problem. Luckily, we as the audience have the benefit of coming in on, wouldn't you know it, the final trial before they hit pay dirt. And the second they dip these things down into this Chekhov's mop bucket of chemical washing, they hit pay dirt, and instantly Ambassador Discount Tomaluk comes in. Congratulations, everybody, you've done it. But we must remain vigilant because these harvesters, they're so dangerous. Must put utmost care into destroying them. And also, we're going to slow pan around the room. You're not done until every single vial of ectoplasm has been washed in this lovely room of death you've all been working in for the past week. Like, zero.
No one's wearing any PPE. No one's wearing, like, there's no. This is like Cold Station 12,
yes.
Right? Like, it's just, you're there amongst all of the bioweapons, and you just get to just have it permeate your soul.
Only thing this place is missing is the man-sized
Test tube.
test tube that you could stand in and unfurl the evil from one of these ectoplasm containers to poison the HVA system of the entire ship.
I know our Enterprise episodes are not typically as popular as some of the other content we've made because the show is not well regarded. But I am begging people out there, if you haven't listened to our episodes about because we did like 5 about the Augments trilogy, because we
real high point too, and those were late season bangers. Like,
yeah, those are
Enterprise
season 4 turbo bangers.
Does get very good, and there's a lot of meat on the bone. Like, we took Cold Station 12 and split it into like 2, maybe even 3 fucking episodes of
we split the first one into 2, the second one into 2. I think we did the last one as 1.
You got Brett Spiner in there. Like,
oh yeah, it's great. But the Cold Station 12 shit might be the funniest we've ever been, precisely because of the man-sized test tube for terrible diseases.
Special guest star jump to conclusions Matt guy from fucking Office Space. It's banging flocks on the DL.
Oh, it's just so good. It's so good. Go watch it. Go listen to our episodes anyway. But yeah, this place is missing the man-sized test tube, but otherwise very similar. And we get a quick cut back to DS9 of like, hey, you boys working on it? And they're like, yeah, we are. And, Bashir wants to stick around and maybe bang a chick. And O'Brien's like, I just want to go home, and get a little bit of that tension. And we cut back, and that's when the plot starts. And by the plot, I mean they're about to destroy the last batch of the harvesters. Everything is going great. The tubes are lowering. And then 2 guys roll in with assault rifles and start killing everyone in the room like it's Columbine, one by one, just gunning them down wherever they are. Until, of course, they arrive at Julian and gonna shoot him, and that's when O'Brien's like, maybe I guess I should kill these guys instead.
He is having his PTSD flashback moment, I think. And he is activating his MK Ultra potential.
Yes. Look out for Charlie in the trees is definitely what's going through his head.
Uh-huh.
There's a more of that as it goes on. He's just very head is on a swivel. That man is ready to fight.
He is navigating the moral minefield of I want to kill people. I want to kill Cardassians ideally. Are these guys Cardassian enough? How can I feel about this? And I think ultimately he is not able to fully commit. For some reason, these guys who have just come in and cemented themselves as bad guys, mass murdering a room full of scientists who are working towards peace and a better tomorrow. These 2 assholes that shoot everybody in this room in cold blood. And when Action O'Brien springs into combat mode, they just palm strike and stock butt them into nap time. And it's just knocking them out and then shooting them in cold blood before they get back up and cause shenanigans. I think Julian gets one with some judo action. He does. They can't reach the Ganges, which is the runabout with the backpack full of photon torpedoes. And they're like, fuck, well, more soldiers are coming. There should have been, 5 people in this death squad, but 3 people were stragglers, maybe with moral objections to what they're doing. And other 2 guys are really keen and wanted to beat the other guys there so they could get all the free kills in.
You could hear them killing everybody else in the crew in the background. You hear the gunfire and screams. I will say it's quite visceral for Star Trek that these guys roll in and you just see people get murdered. Very personal. Some of them run behind a screen and you just see one of them hose them both down with the assault rifle. I mean, everyone dies. You see it happen.
I guess in the moment, I was still trying to figure out why they didn't just throw these weapons into the sun. I didn't realize that they killed everybody on the ship. So they're like, fuck, we need to get out of here. We can't get over to the runabout. And for whatever reason, we have access to a transporter and we don't transport to the runabout.
Yeah, that they don't really explain that, do they?
Hey,
They
why don't
just
we go down to this crusty ass planet we just said? It's ironic that we're curing the harvesters here over the husk of this dusty ass planet that was destroyed by harvesters.
yeah, because they say they can't contact the Ganges. They have a transporter. Just transport onto their ship and then beam and then warp away. Be like, holy shit, what just happened? They just don't do that, and they really just don't explain why that's not an option, do they? They skip right past it.
O'Brien,
Okay.
Miles O'Brien, former doorman for the Enterprise, arguably the best transporter chief in Starfleet, right?
Yeah.
He did this job for like 7 years when he wasn't working on the battle bridge. Is so damn good with the transporter that he can rig the transporter to self-destruct.
30 seconds after they leave.
30 seconds after these, he programs that with 2 seconds of dancing his fingers on a light pad, but he can't beam them over to the Ganges. Whatever. This dude,
We need to make the plot happen somehow.
listen, man, he's in murder mode, and he knows there's not more murder to be had on that runabout. Daddy wants action.
Yeah.
Okay, wife and kids are at home. He's got free runway to kill away.
It's like being in one of Quark's holosuites, except you're actually killing people. That's what he's thinking. Like, oh, now I don't have to just do my simulated murdering of other sentient life. I can actually do it.
What I needed was him to beam Julian out first, and once Julian's gone and can't see, him shoulder the rifle and shoot the 2 guys knocked out on the floor.
Very Picard season 1 of you.
Get those kills
rolling into the club, murdering everybody with two assault rifles at the same time. Oh, O'Brien does get hit by a drop of the juice from one of the canisters when one of the assault rifle blasts strikes the machine. So
the ID hidden in the chemical dip.
It's better than the rocks, I guess.
I'm sorry, real quick. The chemical dip full of dangerous chemicals and radiation and plague, was that by any chance a large red container to be thought of as an explosive barrel in this coworker murder simulator that they're playing?
And O'Brien got hit by the splash damage. He was too close.
Literally splash, yeah.
He was just trying to kill the mobs. So O'Brien and Bashir beam down to the planet, and they spend the rest of the episode basically in a bunker where they found some food and water and an old transmitter, and they're going to try and get it working. And really, the episode is about the two of them learning to talk to each other and relate a bit to each other, mostly through the frame of reference of relationships. That Bashir is basically a poon hound, constantly attempting to bang the nearest attractive female, regardless of species. And O'Brien being a family man, married with a daughter, and talking with Bashir about basically why he should get married, why he should settle down, find someone he can spend the rest of his life with that's important. While Bashir comments on his own decisions in his own life that brought him to where he is, and that he decided not to pursue a relationship with a French ballerina, instead decided to fulfill his obligations to Starfleet, which, got to admit, buddy, I'm not sure about that one. One seems to involve a lot less mortal danger, and they are where they are, and it works because, Bashir is supposed to be younger, less experience with life. O'Brien has got all this wisdom. He's the one checking fucking treasure chests to see if they've got compression grenades on them and shit. He's the one looking for enemies to kill, trying to get things fixed, trying to get things done. And as the situation goes on, of course, Bashir has to take a more active role as O'Brien gets sick, and you see his qualities start to emerge.
I love O'Brien being activated. And I know we're joking around about it before, but this is a side of him that I don't think we've really seen. Like, even when they had the Bajorans coming on to try and secure Deep Space Nine during the the civil insurrection or whatever the fuck it was. Like, he didn't get for real, like, it's killing time.
Correct.
We know that he's got all this war trauma when he was underneath Benjamin Maxwell, dealing with the border incursions and skirmishes with the Cardassians. But, like, dude's trauma bleeds through quick. He becomes a completely different person. And at first, I mean, we know he's sick. They show the fucking drop of shit hit his skin.
Of course.
But he starts getting real snippy with Bashir real quickly. And I assume that's the onset of the Harvester stuff, degrading his social niceties on top of the rawness of the situation. I don't want to say he enjoys what's happening, but he sure feels at home there.
He's, yeah, to go all the way back to where you were starting with your comments, you know, the wounded and all these episodes that kind of we watched in preparation of DS9 suggests a version of this version of O'Brien exists. Like, the story has permitted this version of O'Brien to exist. This does feel like the first time they felt more comfortable really showing what that meant, and felt like, I agree that when he was involved with the Bajoran stuff, he seemed to be playing with kid gloves. Like, that was the intention, of course. They were trying not to kill anybody.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, they're in a mortal danger situation, and he's acting like it. And appreciate that they build on this in the future, of course. O'Brien as a war veteran, as someone who's really experienced personal violence, who is pragmatic about the galaxy in a way most of his colleagues, aside from Kira, probably are not. Like, not
Who's
even
willing
Sisko.
to say that the Cardassians have had niceness bred out of them like they're animals, they're pit bulls.
Yeah, like he and Kira are the ones that really have a lot in common when you think about it in terms of their worldview. They spent a lot of time having to deal with the monstrosity of the Cardassian Union in visceral terms, and have seen the most personal violence out of anyone there, even more than Sisko. You know, Sisko, you know, got his shit wrecked by the Borg and lost his wife, but that seems to be nothing compared to being involved in a war where you have to endure the slow death of your own morality.
The morality death is real. I mean, think about where you have to be as two people of separate races, where you instantly arrive on the blockbuster idea of, we have to raid a prison camp. You're going to be a hooker and I'll be your space pimp.
That's the play.
No further discussion. No notes. Run the play.
Yeah, and also
great success.
Yeah, with Kira, you're going to go on the suicide mission. Well, the only man who's crazy enough to go with you is this guy, so he's going with you. Why? Because you might get to kill Cardassians, and that's what he loves.
Daddy
he loves it more than his life on the station, evidently.
Give me the crossover episode where it's O'Brien and oh my god, B'Elanna Torres.
Okay, I can see that working.
That's the buddy cop Christmas special I need. Are two great engineers who ride dirty as fuck, do not have a complete formal education, and get off on killing Cardassians. That is the true Miles O'Brien adultery episode waiting.
I was going to say, yeah, like, I could see Miles be like, I think I like this chick too much. I think I need to get away from her, or I'm going to be doing some things I should not be doing.
Give me the holodeck episode where they just finish killing all of the Cardassians and then fall into each other's arms and we fade to black.
So,
move over, Paris.
O'Brien is great, and it couldn't be worse. It couldn't be worse, right? So, O'Brien's great in this episode. I agree. Like, he's sick, so he starts to be shitty, and, you know, he gets more reflective as time goes on. What do you think of Bashir and his end of it? Like, he still comes off as just a bit too naive and a bit too priggish, but
first of all, I love
he's warming up. I mean, the version of him I'm more familiar with is starting to really emerge.
I like that he has this skill for engineering that is instantly dismissed by O'Brien, and I think O'Brien's right to just be like, get your amateur shit out of here. I excel at this. Believe it or not, this is why I'm on the fucking Deep Space Nine. Is this right here? And that's one of the bridges that O'Brien has to cross with Bashir. Is like, let me actually respect you as an intelligent person, not just as a doctor, but as a capable person. Otherwise,
a capable Starfleet officer.
I like their physical framing where, he's getting sweaty and gross and sick and real. And like the episode, the scene that really stands out to me is O'Brien resting, and then you got Bashir taking guard duty with the rifle, and he's like out in the doorway, and I don't know if it's dusk or dawn, but like this really nice flattering lighting kind of like giving him this glowing aura. And it's this real romantic look, which really fits the vibe of Bashir in this. He feels like a World War II character that's going to the front line because he's buying into romantic propaganda and bullshit, and he's left his love behind, and he's gone chasing glory and honor on the front line. And now he is seeing that it's not really what he actually wanted, and that, this kind of stuff's gross and good people get hurt and this and that. So they represent fun sides of an opposing ends of a spectrum. And he's a newbie, he's a rookie, and that's part of the story they're telling here too. Is the veteran and the rookie. So I think he keeps up his end of things. He maintains entertaining. I like his romanticized views of the ballerina and the life he could have had instead of what he's chosen. Again, I'm hoping that there's more to his decision to go to Deep Space Nine and decision to pursue Starfleet, to get away from Earth and get away from being detected as a augment. And it's not just, I was chasing glory. I gave up this really great, perfect life on Earth, and I'm out here at a space travel America.
Because I'm trying to evade notice.
There's some sort of pressure that was on me, and this is not ideal, and I know it. It's just some sort of tragedy there.
Yeah, I'll be interested in your thoughts of how they end up framing it. I don't want to characterize it at all, but it is interesting that you are spoiled on that particular element of his character. It allows you that opportunity to consider, like, is this going to feel like an accident later, or is it going to actually be spoken of? So, overall, most of the plot is just them talking, and so that leaves us very little to talk about when it relates to that. But this cover up that is launched to try and explain what happened is the ambassadors come to Deep Space Nine, show up to Cisco and say everyone's dead because of this trap in the computer that basically annihilated everybody within a flash of light because of hyper intense radiation that just kills everything because of a failsafe as it relates to the program that they were disarming. So they come with a little chip, and they give it to him of the recording from the security camera on the ship that would prospectively prove that this is what happened. Of course, it is novel, as it always is, that security footage seems to exist everywhere, but on a Federation outpost of any kind.
Well, hey, Federation brand new hot rods, too. I mean, Voyager certainly had its lack of them.
So, once again, we're hoping the Federation can, at some point, master security camera technology. We believe in them. But fortunately, this other species, they had this, and we go through a sort of mourning period on the station with the main characters. The peak of that is probably Dax and Kira having a toast with Quark, where Quark gives a very heartfelt appreciation for O'Brien and Bashir. I love it. He really values his customers.
That 2 weeks ago, I tried to poison Bashir to rig a racquetball match. I really did respect him, and I appreciate him, and I mourn his loss for a death that I may have very well have caused myself with my amateur cocktail of
Sleepy juice.
sleepy purple drink and Sudafed.
I mean, I loved it because Cork is very heartfelt. There's no
Yeah.
sarcasm. He's like, no, I actually did value them because they were great customers. I treasured them, just like the rules of acquisition tell me.
Back to Bashir and O'Brien on the surface. Like you said, like Bashir's like, yay, rations, how convenient. And O'Brien's like, no, we got to be careful. It could be booby trapped. We lost a lot of good men to, Cardassians leaving supplies behind, booby trapped. Oh, cool. It's clear. Here you go, Chief. Your favorite thing, rations. Get those the fuck out of here, Julian. Federation rations or get the fuck out. Very specific man about what he likes. And if he does not like, he is quick to tell you. Here's how I want you to frame this episode. The Christmas Elves and the Discount Romulans, who do not have the creativity to shoot the goo weapons into the sun, right?
Right. Lack that critical thinking skill.
What if they just are physically incapable as two species of recognizing bad Photoshop? And they put together this terrible, like they get the best people in their respective governments, top Photoshoppers, right?
Right. The best they can offer.
And they give a tape to, we're sorry, your O'Brien guy, he fucked up and killed everybody. We do have footage. And it's like legit footage. And then like VCR garbling, it jumps forward 15 seconds and then the room's empty. As you can see, he killed everybody. I'm looking like, the fuck is this?
Or it's like some Poochie goes to their home planet type of shit where it's like a cutout.
It's like they're just colorblind and they're incapable of seeing the color of this is a terrible Photoshop that just anybody else can instantly see. And it's like boomers seeing AI on Facebook and thinking it's real. And you're saying like, this is fake as fuck. What do you think? Do you think they really dragged a giraffe to the top of the World Trade Center? What is wrong with you, Grandma?
So
no, where's my people at? What have you done? No, we've been assured this is the best Photoshop we've ever produced. What are you saying? This is fake.
So they try to make a big point in the plot that Sisko goes and talks to Keiko.
Takes like a champ, by the way.
Yeah, who's not as upset over Miles dying as you would kind of hope her to be, as his wife and everything. But
where's her affair at?
She comes tromping right back up to Ops and is like, nah, sit down with me. You Starfleet Jimokes. I also served on the Enterprise. I'm also better than all of you. I have cracked this code. Like, hold on. And runs back through the tape and is like, see that? Miles doesn't drink coffee in the afternoon. Also, and I did like a biospectral analysis of this tape, and it definitely was coffee. So I'm telling you, it's fake. And they all just were like, you know what? Fuck it. Fine. We believe you.
Right here, before the screen crinkles and we lose 15 seconds, and everybody's been shuttled off.
Commander, have you never seen a Photoshop before? Is this new to you? So apparently, Keiko's stolen some stuff from Sears because she knows fake security camera footage when she's seen it. And it's enough for Sisko. Sisko's like, all right, Dax, you and me, we're going to go out and we're going to get our space Winnebago that's been hanging out there because, our people are dead.
That's the good one. It's got the backpack full of photon torpedoes. We can't leave
we need that back.
Yeah.
And so they go back out and the Space Elf ambassador greets them. And Sisko has a sus conversation with her on the bridge of the ship where, everyone was vaporized. And sure enough, Dax figures out, O'Brien tried to beam them back to the ship, and for some reason it didn't work, and that happened after they were supposed to be dead. So obviously this is all fake, and something's going on. And ultimately, the most obvious plot twist is that actually both the Discount Romulans and the Space Elves are on this together because they're planning to kill everyone who ever knew anything about the creation of these weapons, and therefore they also have to kill O'Brien and Shear because they were helping destroy them. And mind you, this is a bioweapon that they could have just launched into the sun and also is defeated by third-tier Federation technology. So I'm not quite sure exactly why this is necessary, but that's the plot.
Put this down in the all-time worst plan book.
Yeah,
and I
Murder
don't think
Federation officers hope to get away with it
like
as third parties.
that you invited out, by the way.
Yes,
They didn't stumble into this. This wasn't like we're stuck in a subspace pocket dimension and we have to work together and we're on, like, you have invited an organization that is echelons above you technologically.
Yeah. An order of magnitude more powerful, if not several orders of magnitude more powerful. Yeah.
And the Space Romulans and the Christmas Elves are not presented as bad people. Like, they're not happy about this. It's kind of a story we've seen before. Like, we're sorry you have to be in this, but like, these are the rules.
Yes.
But this is just a terrible plan. Like,
it is.
When I'm joking about like this race not being capably of like seeing that that's a bad Photoshop, that is well within the wheelhouse of people that would come up with a plan this fucking bad. Like, this is pack-led levels of stupidity.
And then their follow-up after their plan to kill them fails because Dax and Cisco figure it out and beam them out at the last second is to kill 4 Starfleet officers instead of 2 Starfleet officers, except this time they won't have the plausible deniability that came with their fake bad Photoshop for the incineration plan. They're just going to gun down this runabout and murder all 4 of them. Like, that's not going to carry even worse consequences for them. Now he killed the commanding officer of Deep Space Nine and a multi-hundred-year-old joined Trill. Great.
I wish
I'm sure no one will care about this.
I wanted Jadzia to be left behind because I don't feel like she really added anything in here other than the Julian diary speech. I want this to be Kira Nerys, just so Nana Vester could have flipped the fuck out with like incredulity, like, you're gonna kill what? What? And for her to activate back into terrorist mode, be like, Cisco, here's a plan. Beam us onto the Ganges. We're going to sack the Rio Grande or whatever this one is. And here's some dirty rebel bullshit we're going to do to get away from these fucking space fascists. And I got the hot shit plan here while also being crazy pissed that I got pulled into this ridiculous Starfleet debacle because you guys are being goody two-shoes and trying to help strangers.
I completely agree with that rewrite. That would have been better.
I love down on the surface, too, the focus on married life.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something that they had touched on back in Space Wheelchair Lady and long distance relationships and Julian's outlook of, what's he say? Like, I don't, marriage seems unfair to the wife and the children. That's just a view that I have. And it's a view that a lot of officers have. That
Which
this
is why you very infrequently see them with spouses or children.
Yeah, because you bring spouses and children around, sometimes they get murdered by Cardassians during skirmish wars.
Or Borg, just because they happen to be on the ship and, they decided to show up.
I like that this is a canonized sentiment now, that these Starfleet guys kind of realize that they are intentionally living very dangerous lives, which, as we merge the Orville and Star Trek into one thing, it makes sense that you've got people who could be very comfortable living on Earth with holodecks and replicators, and instead you're out on the frontier of space, endangering yourself around space ectoplasm that can get you sick and this other stuff. Like, this is a real case study of why this is bad. And O'Brien through this thing is like, you're missing out on very wonderful times. Which he's not wrong until, your family's being murdered by Cardassians. So till your child is potentially being threatened by a doppelganger of Rumpelstiltskin.
So the episode ultimately wraps with Bashir having,
A foot
stabilized
fetish.
O'Brien. Yeah. Oh yes, I forgot. Bashir does have a explicit foot fetish, which is why he probably enjoyed dating a ballerina.
Mm-hmm.
And they get beamed out at the last second. Bashir stabilizes O'Brien, and off camera, evidently, we are led to believe that Cisco, Dax, O'Brien, and Bashir basically beam themselves to the Ganges. No, beam themselves from the Ganges to the runabout, the Rio Grande that they brought to collect the Ganges. Let the Ganges get blown up and then just warped away.
No, they keep the Ganges because the Ganges has the
backpack torpedoes.
The torpedo full of photon torpedoes, yeah.
Whatever. One of them gets sacked. One of them survives.
Whatever, man. Listen, a backpack
none of it happens
full of...
on screen. They just establish that's what happened in dialogue, and they literally cut to O'Brien's already feeling better in sickbay.
I thought the rope-a-dope was a good trick because they do stress that this sensor jamming technology that the space elves have is bad for everybody. Why they didn't just fly the fuck out of there immediately was beyond me, but whatever. Yeah. Hey, these harvesters are so dangerous to everybody. We can cure it with penicillin, actually, believe it or not.
Here's a Z-Pack. You're fine.
Here's some Claritin. You're all good. Computer, replicate me. Man. Replicate me 10 milligrams of Robitussin. Rub the tussin on it, Miles. Computer, 1/2 cup of Flintstones vitamins.
And I did like at the end that, he's talking to his wife, and, Bashir's got a little awkward socially, so he needs a direct implication to go away. And O'Brien just casually mentions to Keiko, like, hey, I could go for some coffee right now. It's like, you don't drink coffee in the afternoon. And he says, yes, I do. And she just like looks literally, and she goes, what? And then the episode ends. Like, it was such a good comedy bit right at the end.
10 out of 10 ending.
Just like direct hard cut to credits after it reveals Keiko was wrong all along. She didn't crack the code. She just randomly, accidentally was right that Miles was still alive.
Miles's marriage is a sham. All the stuff about soulmates and working through and being together, he fed Julian's bullshit. These two people don't know each other at all. I need the after the credits scene where, I don't know, Jadzia and maybe Kira are sitting there in Cisco's ready room. Like, so Federation's going to war with these guys, right?
Tried to murder you guys. Trying to murder all 4 of you.
Nope, we're just putting them on the ban list for future membership, I guess.
It's like we're in no-go zone. We're not friends. All right, we're not at war, but we're at hostile.
I can't, in good faith, punish them for trying to kill me after I've let Quark get away with attempted murder. What? All the stuff you're ready to just go completely apeshit and fuck people up over, and these assholes that soaked up 20 manpower weeks or days of 2 of your most important people tried to kill you, and it's just turning the other cheek, huh?
I guess this is the first really big O'Brien must suffer episode when you think about it. It's a trope that is repeated over and over and over again on the show.
I'd say he had a worse time on Ops of Rage.
He had a bad time on Ops of Rage. He had a bad time when he had the aphasia virus. But this seems specifically targeted at him. He's the one that suffers in this episode. So, regardless, though, if this is the first clear indication of it, or merely the first major reoccurrence, be prepared for multiple episodes every single season of Miles O'Brien suffering the most horrific fates possible. Speaking of,
we're going to be getting into season 2, episode 14, Whispers. There's the little picture, and it's O'Brien in the caves, the planet Hell caves, leaning up against yet another supply crate. Yet again, looking fucked up, dazed, and somehow sick. Upon returning from a mission to the Parada system, O'Brien begins to notice the crew acting strangely around him and suspects there may be some unknown influence at work.
Not done be suffering yet for season 2, obviously. So thank you so much to everyone for listening to another episode of Eager Please. If you are interested in joining us on Discord, just hit me up at Twitter at VegerPlease or email me at VegerPlease@gmail.com. Happily, we'll send you an invite, and we'll be doing our first run of Veger Revisited, which is us doing non-broadcast, non-recorded re-reviews of Voyager episodes, the worst of the worst. And we'll be doing that on February 22nd, which should be right after this episode comes out. So if you're listening to this contemporaneously, get on into Discord and strap yourself in for a good time on February 22nd. So thank you so much to everybody. See you next week.